Well, hello, everyone. It's great to see you here. We're here. It's Today's Abundant Living. We're here with Joy Whitman and Miriam Shumaker. And I'm Holly Smith. We're happy to have you here with us. We're journeying through the book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. Today, we're going to be looking at, if you're following along, and I hope you are, we're looking at the chapter. What we're really talking about is a rule of life. So if you're enjoying these videos, this is the 8th week. This is week 8. So if you haven't caught the other ones, you can go back and see them either on MeWe.com at Today's Abundant Living with Holly Smith or on YouTube. If you're enjoying these videos, please hit the like button. It helps them go out to more people so they can be blessed and enjoy them as well. We'd love to have you join our community. Just hit subscribe and click the bell so that you'll get notifications, and join us on MeWe. We're really having some great discussions there as well. So let's jump in. Let's get started. And we'd love to have you comment. We're Fridays at noon. So we'd love to have you come on in with us and comment in the comment sections, and we'll chat back and forth with you. We'd love to have you join the discussion. So we've been journeying through. Today we talk about the rule of life. And I love the very first sentence starts out, if there's anything you pick up from reading the 4 Gospels, it's that Jesus was rarely in a hurry.
Yeah, right. Can you imagine stressed out Jesus snapping at Mary Magdalene after a long day? I can't believe you dropped the hummus. Sighing and saying to himself, I seriously need a glass of wine. Can you picture him half talking to you, half texting on his iPhone, the sporadic, punctuating a one-sided conversation? Reading the way he writes that, I just can't even fathom that at all.
No. And as he says, we're to be apprentices of Jesus. We should look like Jesus. And no, I can't imagine Jesus being rushed and harried and hurried and with half attention on the things he's doing.
No, right.
Yeah. Can't imagine anybody saying to him, Jesus, did you hear me?
Yeah, right. That's
You
very
listening?
true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, even this next one was kind of a joke because, I'm speaking at a TEDx tomorrow. Here's Thaddeus, an apprentice of mine nobody's ever heard of. He's happy to pray for you. I'm out.
Yeah, that's another piece, not only busy, but too important. What I'm doing is so much more important than you.
Right.
That's really what that message sends.
Well, and that kind of goes to I don't remember how old I was when I learned it, but it has stuck with me forever about when you're late. If you're a consistently late person, that has nothing to do with your lack of time. Deep down, it has to do with I'm more important than you are.
Right. And
that really struck me when I was really young, and I'm really conscious about that all the time now. I always have been. So yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Which takes not being hurried. Ironically, it's that hurry trying to fit so much in that tends to, anybody can be late sometimes, but that chronically late is generally an outflow of that constant hurried, one more thing has to fit in.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's you have a problem when people tell you the time for something 15 minutes earlier than it regularly is. They're going to be late.
Yes. I had somebody in my life that I would try to do that with, but she eventually caught on to my, and she realized that it only worked for a period of time. And then she realized that I was buffering the time.
Buffered again.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's funny.
And he says, Jesus' schedule was full to the brim at times,
right?
In a good way, yet he never came off hurried. So it was this rule of life that he lived by, and these principles that we're going to talk about. We've moved into the solution now. These previous weeks have talked about the dilemma, the issue, and we're really going to be looking at the solution now going forward.
Yeah.
And I think there, Jesus was rooted in each moment. Yes, he had lots to do, lots to accomplish on the earth, but he was rooted in that moment. He was fully present.
Mhm.
He wasn't worried about the next thing.
Right. We're hearing so much right now about mindfulness and
Mhm.
being in the moment. And this was who Jesus was. And this is, as apprentices of Jesus, who we really should be and what we, want to be working to strive toward.
Mhm.
But it does
Yeah.
take purposeful effort. If we allow ourselves to just go with the culture, we will be swept away into this hurried mania.
Yeah, right, for sure, for sure. And the example that he brings about, with Lazarus, how, Jesus's friend came to him and he says, Lazarus is dead and or sick and he's ready to die. And Jesus still just kind of did what he was supposed to do. He wasn't in a rush to get there.
Right.
And I can't wrap my mind around that. I mean, I know that was Jesus's nature. I think I'm saying I can't wrap my mind around it because I can't imagine being able to do that myself. Something that important, somebody, such a close friend dying.
Right.
I can't imagine not being there.
Right.
And dropping everything, but that wasn't Jesus's nature.
Right.
Yeah. Especially if I could do something to help them, which Jesus obviously could have done something to help him right away, if that was his plan.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Of course,
Yeah.
Jesus, Jesus was Jesus. He was able to help him after the fact too. so-
Yeah. Well, and that's what just crossed my mind when you said that too, because it's like, well, he had the advantage because he knew what he was able to do.
Yeah.
The people around him and us in our own nature, if that was our circumstance, we wouldn't have known that we could do that.
Yeah.
But he did. So
Yeah.
he had the advantage.
Right. Right.
For sure.
I like this. It says Jesus made sure to inject a healthy dose of margin into his life. It's been said that margin is the space between our load and our limits.
Yeah, I circled margin in that just as a reminder, in that sentence as a reminder, just because it's really the key to everything.
It is. I love that word margin because it gives you that little buffer. And if you don't build in margin and then something urgent comes up, it just sets you into a tailspin and a frizzy and how are we going to get this all done?
Right?
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah, it really does.
I hear people a lot of times say when things get back to normal. So when life is there's an event happening or there's a season happening, when life gets back to normal. And I think that is such a misnomer, and it really leads us to live these crazy lives without margin, because normal life is crazy.
Yeah.
So, or can be. I mean, I think that the idea of normal means without these big events happening, but this life has these big events. So, knowing that and living with that, not in worry or not in, but knowing that and keeping margin in place, not thinking that that's abnormal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Very much.
Yeah. I have someone in my life that likes to say that a lot. Well, when I'm done building, and I know there's going to be a hammer and nails in the coffin with him because he will never get done building.
I
Never.
can imagine who you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm not going to say any names. But he is the most productive person I know on this earth.
Yeah. Yeah. What was the show that said we'll protect Adam? No, there was a Dragnet, I think it was. That was we'll protect the names of the innocent or something. I forget which show, but at the very beginning of the show, I always had that disclaimer.
Yes.
Yeah. I won't say his name, but his nickname is the Energizer Bunny.
That's right. That's right. I love it.
Yeah, there's some people like that.
There are.
For sure.
I'm jealous.
I like too, he mentions in here, this chapter is called, what we're really talking about is a rule of life. And I like what he said is, don't let the language of rule turn you off. We have a tendency, we want to be free flowing. We want to be, but really Jesus was, but it was because he had this rule of life. And I like how it's described on page 95. It says the word rule comes from the Latin word rugula. I don't speak Latin, however that's pronounced, rugula, which literally means a straight piece of wood. Think ruler. But it was also used for a trellis.
Yeah.
It says what a trellis is to a vine, a rule is to a life abiding. It is a structure, in this case, a schedule and a set of practices to set up abiding as the central pursuit of your life.
I found that was a very good word picture of, what a rule is supposed to be. It's really more just setting up structure, not a disciplinary view. And that's really important to get your mind to understand that, because it's kind of like the whole, religion versus relationship. Just because you're a Jesus follower doesn't mean that you are, stuck to these rules and regulations, and it's all about the relationship. So there's still rules to a point, but they're not really rules. They're just a way of life and a way to make your life go smoother.
Right.
And
I think that's a common misconception of Christianity. Is I remember saying years ago to a friend, and I said, I tithe just strictly out of obedience. And she said, yeah, me too. And I said, no, I don't mean obedience like that. I mean, I walked out in the world. I know what I'm like on my own. I find obedience to Christ to be safe and lovely and beautiful. He has a beautiful plan for us. And it says, the Bible says that he came to give us life and give it to us in abundance. He desires to pour out blessings and an abundance over us of when I say abundance, I'm not talking about 16 Mercedes, I'm talking about a rich, full life with, wonderful relationships. And, so, the rules are not, we don't serve a stick in the mud God. We serve a wonderful, beautiful, abundant God that has margin and boundaries for us to lead us down and into, and I shouldn't say down necessarily, but on the path of this beautiful life he has for us.
Right.
Yeah. And rules aren't made to punish us or limit us, but really more in a positive way to protect us and guide us and nurture us.
Right.
So they will limit us, but for our good, not for our lack of fun.
Right.
And it's all our choice. I mean, we can choose not to, it's not and nothing's, necessarily, you're not going to get struck by lightning, but it does, it does give a whole different level of peace and contentment.
It does. It does. I was just talking to a friend yesterday, and we said, following Jesus is not easy, but it's simple. You follow Jesus and you follow his principles. It makes decisions not easy, but it makes them uncomplicated.
Yeah.
Your life becomes uncomplicated. It becomes sometimes very difficult. It's not an easy thing to do, but so worth it and so beautiful.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I also like the way he puts in here. I know we quote Stephen Covey a lot on this, little discussions, because it is so applicable to a lot of stuff that he talks about, that the book talks about. In this one in particular, we achieve inner peace when our schedule is aligned with our values. Yes. And that's really very, very telling and very true.
Very true. That's what you've heard me on these talk about our dreaming and planning time that Jim and I do once a year. And that's a big piece for us. We are busy people, but that allows us to, and we periodically through the year have little, we call them touchstones, where we meet back and make sure that we're aligning. And I can tell you, sitting right here, I can look at on my bulletin board, we have a 4-season quadrant that we have, so it's up in front of me all the time, where are we headed? And so we really do look, what's important to prayerfully, so the Lord can put on our heart what's important to us. And then are we basing our calendar, our finances, our schedule, our direction toward that, or away from it?
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. That's
Yeah.
it's a trellis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it says, following Jesus has made it onto your schedule and into your practices, or it will simply never happen. Apprenticeship to Jesus will remain an idea, not a reality in your life.
It's an intentional, very intentional thing.
Very intentional. Yes. Yes. The hard truth is that following Jesus is something you do, a practice, as much as a faith. At their core, the practices of Jesus are about a relationship with the God he called Father, and all relationships take time.
Right. And actually, just before that, what you just read is there's a bit of he tries to say it very gently, but there is a bit of well, if you're too busy, and he literally says, people list their excuses and everything of why they can't. He says, and on the very rare occasion that somebody genuinely does not have time for the practices we'll get into in part 3, I simply suggest that they are too busy then to follow Jesus.
Right.
And, it's a harsh reality, but it is a reality, because then as he, kind of uses the examples of a marriage, can you imagine if your spouse says, hey, I want more time with you, and you said, no, I'm too busy. Well,
Right.
then your marriage is going to go nowhere.
Right.
And it's really the same thing. And he's very right when he says, if you give the excuses that you're too busy, and at one point he says that he has people do the practice of writing down, logging, what they do. And people are shocked at really how much time they spend either watching a television program or being on social media, or, just doing the fake busy work, I so to speak. Can you imagine if you just use that time and took that as your your rule of life to eliminate some of that, to open up the time for Jesus.
Right.
Yeah. And I know a lot of times I will see, like, social media keeps coming up, where for me it's kind of a relaxing thing, a mindless thing, but after a long day of work. But there are other things you can substitute, like just listening to praise and worship music.
Yeah.
That doesn't take it really doesn't take, a lot of brain power.
Yeah.
And it's just as relaxing, and then it fills you with something really good.
Yeah, that's very true.
Good point.
So there are things that you can come up with to, even in situations like that, where you can adapt so that you are more centered on God.
Yeah. And it takes a conscious effort for sure. I mean, you, like you said, I'm picking up your phone and just kind of browse through social media for a little while. That's a no-brainer. Anybody can do that, but it takes an effort to say, you know what, maybe I'm not going to do this. I'm going to go ahead and do what you were suggesting, turn on some music instead, and just kind of have some things that are going to be filling my spirit and soul more than just the mind-numbing nothing.
Yeah.
Right. Right. When you talked about the time, looking at your time with, you've heard me talk about the conscious eating program that I teach, and it is an 11-month program for a reason. And I've said before, if it was just giving people the what to do, I would write a book, I would give it to them, they would read it and they'd be done. But it's so much more than that, because it's these deep-rooted habits that we have. It's a process, and it's walking them through the process. And almost always I need to do a time budget with people, because I get that from people, and they'll say, their health is really important. And I have people come to me who are really pretty healthy and want to get more healthy, or I have people come to me that are very, very ill, like with very, very serious illnesses, and everybody in between. And all of them, no matter where they're at, I will get that same that same thing with the time. And it's, I have to be delicate, especially if somebody is very, very ill, but it comes down to change. What I say all the time to people is change takes change. So something has to change. So, and I will have them do, just like you would a financial budget, I will have them do a time budget. And once they do the time budget, they don't tend to plug in these things like TV and social media. So they see all these gaps of time, but they don't know, but I don't really have these. Like in my regular day, they're not there. Well, let's talk about what's in there.
Yeah.
And that's where we start to find these little, like we've talked about before, these things that come in small increments. We don't really realize, 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 15 minutes here, how much time that really fills up. And
Right. Right. And I know we've all done it too. When you get on social media, you get on, you kind of start browsing. Next thing you know, it's a half hour later.
Right.
I mean, I've done that. I'm like, holy cow. Sometimes when I wake up in the morning, I'll just be waking up and I'll kind of browse through a couple things. And before I know it, a half hour's gone by. And it goes quick when you're not paying attention.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And then my time with Jesus is gone. So I've had to set a rule for myself.
Yes.
Since I have to be out the door at a certain time every morning, no social media in the morning, because that just eats it up. And then my time with Jesus is gone.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I need to make my time, the word says meditate on his word morning and night. And I'll be honest with you, we'll do a devotional at night, but to really do anything deep, honestly, I'm tired. So I try to do both, but the morning, if I don't do it first thing in the morning, it's not going to happen. And then I don't like who I am without, I don't want to expose the world to me either. But I need Jesus, really need, and all y'all, you may not know it. You need me to need Jesus.
Yeah, it's very true. Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So he says at the end of this chapter, he says, so are you ready to construct a trellis for your vine, a schedule, a practice or two to create space for life with Jesus, to make room for love and joy and peace, to become your default settings? Are you ready to arrange or rearrange your days so that Jesus' life becomes your new normal? That's a
How
good
bad
question.
do you want it?
How bad do you want it? So comment in the comment section. Are you ready? Because we're going to jump into those practices here now going forward starting next week. So give me a comment. Are you with us? Are you jumping in? Anything else on this one?
No, I think that's covers it pretty good.
Yeah, I think the two takeaways on this are, it is like a trellis. It's what holds up our life of abiding. It's a choice, and without it, it won't happen.
Right.
Yeah.
So
There has to be a consistent pursuit.
it does have to be a consistent pursuit. Absolutely. All right. Well, I guess we'll wrap up for this week. We'll look forward to seeing you next week, Friday at noon, same place, same time. We'll be on MeWe.com and we'll be at YouTube. So come on in and join us again. Hit the like button, subscribe, hang out with us. We'll see you next time. Be well.
Bye.
Bye.